Hi everyone, welcome to InfoSec news section of my channel Security Bit. All the sources of this news are linked in the description. Now let me pass it to my AI friend to help walk us through this
All right,
news.
let's get right into it. We're going to break down a pretty major security event that really shook up the software world. And this isn't just another data breach story. No, this is about a whole new type of threat. So just imagine for a second, what if a piece of malware didn't need you to click on a phishing link? What if it could just spread itself, using your own projects, your own credentials, to infect other people? It's basically been a nightmare scenario for any developer, and, well, it just happened. And that brings us to this really important term, the supply chain worm. Now, the key word here, the one you really need to focus on, is autonomously. This thing spreads on its own. It doesn't just steal your data. It turns every infected developer into a carrier, using their access to poison other software packages and keep the chain reaction going. So let's climb to this beast, the Shai-Hulud attack. Yep, named after those giant sandworms from Dune. And honestly, it's a pretty fitting name, because this thing burrowed deep into the software ecosystem. Now, we're going to dissect it. The date you need to circle on your calendar is September 15th, 2025. This is the day that malicious versions of over 100 really popular packages just started showing up on NPM, the huge software registry that basically the entire JavaScript world runs on. But look, this attack didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It was actually the final move in a much bigger game. The whole thing really started back in late August with a totally different security breach that let the attackers steal a bunch of GitHub tokens. And those tokens were the key they used to unlock the doors to the NPM ecosystem, a classic, devastating chain reaction. So how in the world does a digital worm like this actually work? How does it spread? Let's break down its incredibly clever and, frankly, terrifying four-phase attack plan. And this really shows you the whole life cycle. It's brilliant in a really evil way. It all starts with the initial infection. A developer just installs a package like they do 100 times a day. Then the worm starts to harvest, scanning the machine for every secret it can find. Next is exfiltration. It steals that data. And then comes the scariest part, propagation. It uses the credentials it just stole to infect other software packages, and the whole cycle just starts all over again. And of course, this wasn't done by hand. The attackers had the whole thing automated using two main scripts. One was built just to steal secrets by sneaking a malicious workflow into a project. But the other one, wow, it was even more brazen. It would literally clone a company's private code and just republish it publicly for anyone to see. Now, here is a fascinating little detail that gives us a peek behind the curtain. When researchers looked at the malicious code, some of it looked like it was written by an AI, which points to some pretty modern, sophisticated attackers. But then other parts looked like they were just copied and pasted from somewhere else. So maybe a mix of techniques, or maybe even more than one group of attackers involved. Okay, so we've seen how it works, but what was the real-world damage? Let's talk about the consequences for the actual people and companies who got caught in the middle of this. And here's where we get a little twist in the story. The attackers' main plan, to funnel all this stolen data to one specific place, it kind of backfired. See, they used a free service for it, and that service automatically shut them down after just 100 hits because of all the traffic. So, for once, the defenders got a little bit lucky. But don't start celebrating just yet, because the danger was far from over. Even with that main channel shut down, the malware had a plan B. It just started dumping the stolen secrets directly into public logs on GitHub, leaving them out in the open for anyone to find. And when you look at the initial numbers, they really tell the story. We know for sure at least 36 users had their secret keys and tokens exposed. 8 private code bases were just forced into the public. And that malicious workflow we talked about, it was injected into 64 different projects, basically creating a permanent backdoor. And you gotta understand, we are not talking about some low-level stuff here. The credentials that got leaked were the literal keys to the kingdom. We're talking GitHub and NPM tokens that let you publish code, plus API keys for super-critical services like Atlassian and Datadog. A breach like this is absolutely devastating. Okay, I know that all sounds pretty grim, but this is the most important part. Now we pivot from the problem to the solution. Let's talk about what you and your teams can and absolutely should be doing about this right now. This is the question that should be on the mind of every single person who writes code or manages a development team. You have to have a plan, and you have to act fast. First things first, you have to stop the bleeding. That means ripping any of these malicious packages out of your projects. The absolute safest bet is to just completely wipe your local packages, clean your cache, and reinstall everything from scratch. Then, make sure you upgrade to a version you know is clean, and keep your eyes peeled. All right, step 2, it's time to go on the hunt. The attackers actually left behind some pretty specific footprints. You need to search all of your code repositories for anything named Shai-Hulud or any project that suddenly has a migration tag on it. Dig through your logs, look for weird activity. You're basically becoming a detective here, searching for any sign of a break-in. And finally, we have step 3. And listen, this part is 100% non-negotiable. You have to assume that every single secret on every machine that might have been affected is now compromised. Revoke everything, all of your tokens, all of your API keys, all of your SSH keys. Burn them all down and generate new ones. It is the only way to be sure you've locked the attackers out for good. So, look, this whole incident was a massive, massive wake-up call for everyone. Shai-Hulud proved that a self-spreading worm isn't just a theory anymore. It's real, it's here, and it works. And that leaves all of us with a really critical question. We just saw the first one succeed, so what are we going to do to make sure we stop the next one?
Thank you, my AI friend, for such a good video for this audience. Happy learning to all of you and subscribe for more. There is going to be a lot of more videos like this on this channel, and if you like them, please hit like and subscribe.